Hello dear learners, this is Teacher Lovely of ICAL TV, transmitting English language learning to your respective televisions. Prepare yourselves and join me in this learning session.
And this is Teacher Kate. Today, we will use Oral Communication in Context Module 1 titled Nature, Functions, and Process of Communication. I hope you already have with you your modules. The modules you have serve as your learning companion, especially in this new normal learning environment. So, be sure to have with you your copy in our learning sessions.
Let us drive the classroom through on air. Watch and learn, we are there. Learning English is fun and easy. Express yourself effectively. Let's build your confidence to speak, read and write. Learning grammar and vocabulary. Learning English is fun and easy, just like learning ABC. Constant practice is the key. Learning English easily. Constant practice is the key. So express yourself effectively. Let us use English for opportunities to improve your skills, get good jobs and be happy. Learning English is fun and easy, so let's get ready to study. Constant practice is the key. Learning English easily. Constant practice is the key, so express yourself effectively.
Now, turn your modules to page 3. Are you there now? Let us discuss Lesson 1, Nature and Process of Communication. Let's start.
How do you explore the world around you? How do you manage to establish relationships with your family, friends, and loved ones? How do you enjoy the beauty of life? You are right! All these are possible through communication. Today, we will gain understanding on the nature and process of communication. This is ICAL TV of Lalo National High School, where learning continues at your respective televisions. Now, I will give you 10 seconds to think of a word that you can associate with communication. Ready? These are the words that we can associate with communication. We have the sender, receiver, message, verbal, non-verbal, process, and a lot more. With the words that you associated with communication, can you now define communication? That is right. Communication refers to the transmission of message or ideas from the sender to the receiver through a channel or medium. To better understand it, these are the natures of communication. First, communication occurs between two or more people. Second, communication is verbal or non-verbal. Third, communication is a process.
Fourth, communication is much more of an art than a science. Fifth, communication is inevitable. And sixth, communication is irreversible.
Let us understand the natures of communication. First, Communication occurs between two or more people acting as the speaker or the receiver of the message. In other words, it is a two-way process of reaching mutual understanding in which participants do not only exchange information, ideas, and feelings, but also create and share meaning. In general, communication is a means of connecting people or places. It is through communication that we establish relationships with other people. Second, communication is verbal or non-verbal. Communication is not all about sending or receiving facts in words considered as verbal communication. It does involve ideas and emotions that are expressed through signs, symbols, and gestures, which is called non-verbal communication.
The sample image shows both verbal or spoken words and non-verbal actions. The man uses both verbal and non-verbal cues when he winked at the lady and at the same time greeted her and offered her a drink. On the other hand, the girl's smirk is a gesture of disgust or dislike. Even without the use of words, the lady's gesture is still understood as a form of communicating her disapproval towards the man.
Third, communication as a process means it is a step-by-step activity, and it is essentially a two-way process that involves the active participation of both the speaker and the receiver. This time, let's take a closer look at the illustration on how the communication process takes place in any given situation. It is a process as it starts with the speaker generating an idea. Being the initiator of the process, the speaker decides on what information or idea will be sent to the receiver. Then, the speaker converts an idea into words or actions, and this is called encoding. In the process of encoding, you transform what is in your mind into something understandable by the receiver. Take note that the message should be well understood by the receiver. After encoding, the speaker transmits the message. Through the channel, the speaker sends the message to the receiver. Remember to choose the appropriate channel in sending the message. When the message is sent, the receiver gets the message. One of the roles of the receiver is to be the recipient of the message of the sender. Whatever message sent by the sender should be the same with the message received by the receiver to avoid communication breakdown. Then, the receiver decodes or interprets the message based on context. The process of decoding is done by the receiver after receiving the message. The receiver tries to understand the words or actions of the sender. Lastly, the receiver sends or provides feedback. The feedback refers to the responses or reactions of the receiver to the message of the sender. Through the sending of feedback, you can try to assess the effectiveness of the communication process. This is how the process of communication works, with the sender and receiver actively performing their roles.
Let us try to understand the process of communication through Sheena and Nico friendship and love story. Sheena being the sender and Nico being the receiver. Sheena loves Nico, her suitor, as a friend. With this given context, Sheena generates her message by considering the feelings she has towards Nico. She thinks of how to tell him using their native language. She converted the generated idea through spoken words. Next, she tells him, Nico, mahal kita bilang kaibigan. She sends the message by telling it to Nico using words. Nico, being the receiver, hears what Sheena says. After hearing the message, he tries to analyze what she means based on the context of their relationship, and he is heartbroken. Context plays an important role in the understanding of the message. Based on this situation, when Nico realized the kind of relationship they have, he was able to get the meaning of what Sheena meant. Then, Nico frowns and does not say anything because he is hurt. This is already the feedback of Nico to the message of Sheena.
We move to another nature of communication. Communication is much more of an art than a science. This means that you can communicate on your own way. There is no right or wrong way to communicate. There is no absolute rules to be followed. However, there are underlying principles to guide us into effective communication. We will discuss those in the next episodes. The fifth nature is communication is inevitable. There will and will always be communication whether we are aware of it or not. Inevitability means communication is taking place even when someone does not want or intend to communicate. You do not want to communicate? That is not possible. Because as you react and hesitate to communicate, you are already communicating something. You are telling that you do not like to communicate. See, you cannot avoid communicating. Lastly, communication is irreversible. This means that what you have said can never be unsaid. There is no undo in communication. Remember, this characteristic of communication implies that as a sender of a message, we must be careful and choose the appropriate words to say. Do you now understand the nature and process of communication?
Now, grab a paper and a pen and let us see what you have learned by answering these questions. Question number 1. Which is not an element of the communication process? A. Message. B. Sender. C. Technology. Question number 2. Which element of communication performs the process of decoding? A. Sender. B. Message. C. Receiver. Question number 3. What form of communication is the use of actions? A. Verbal communication. B. Non-verbal communication. C. Written communication. Question number 4. Which comes first in the process of communication? A. Encoding the message. B. Decoding the message. C. Generating the message. Question number 5. What happens after receiving of the message by the receiver? A. Decoding the message. B. Encoding the message. C. Transmitting the message. This time, let us check your answers. The answer to question number 1 is letter C. The answer to question number 2 is letter C. Answer to question number 3 is letter B. Answer to question number 4 is letter C. Lastly, the answer to question number 5 is letter A. How many items did you get correctly? Did you get 5? If so, job well done. Do you have questions regarding the nature and process of communication? Reach us through our Facebook page flashed on your screens at Oral Communication 300469. Again, at Oral Communication 300469.
For your task, you answer the assessment part of your module on page 13 and the self-check activity on page 14. Do not forget to write your answers on a separate sheet of paper. So that is it for today. I hope that through this session, you were able to understand the nature and process of communication. I am Teacher Kate.
I am Teacher Lovely of ITEL TV, transmitting English language learning to your televisions. Because together, we convey, we connect. Happy learning, everyone!